It's a chess game. And so we need to remove the players from the board, and we need to enable those that are still out there to continue to move forward.
Like a population that is in our society trying to coexist with us, and we are telling them that they can't go to the bathroom in public, I think it's just bad for business. So again, I think this doesn't reflect Idaho values. So I think it's bad for business, and I'll be voting no.
There further debate?
Mr. President,
Senator Lenny.
to debate the bill.
Have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've heard it mentioned in previous debates that this is not right, and that it might make it uncomfortable for certain types of people to use the bathroom. This bill doesn't say people can't use the bathroom. This bill says men cannot invade women's spaces. Because I'll tell you what else is not right, Mr. President, is if my 11-year-old daughter goes to the rec center, for example, and a man comes in the changing room and just sits there and stares at her. I mean, we could do the what ifs all day long kind of on both sides of this thing. This is a bill to keep women and girls safe, because I think it is a absolute objective harm to have men in women's and girls' spaces. That's all this bill does. Thank you, Mr. President.
There further debate?
Mr. President.
Senator Cole. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill is about protecting Idaho's cultural decency. It's about protecting our children, and especially, in many cases, protecting the females in our state who feel threatened when certain individuals, men particularly, walk into their changing room. That's not right. I was sent here by my voters to protect Idaho's children and to protect Idaho's cultural decency. We don't want to become like California or New York. We want to keep Idaho safe from so many of the cultural influences that are pressing down onto the different states. I'll just say it, you know, there's a lot of conversation about the trans population, not a lot of conversation about protecting our young children and making sure that they're safe in their spaces. Trans women aren't women, they're men, and they need to be treated as such. Thank you, Mr. President.
There further debate?
Mr. President.
Senator Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. President, to debate the bill.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as a mom with a daughter, we had this situation occur once, and it was scary. I think the one thing that we need to remember is we're talking a lot about what a person looks like that you can see every day, just like we look around and see us. But when you're in these sorts of spaces, that's not all that you're seeing sometimes. Sometimes you're seeing things that are covered up, that are below the stomach area. I'll just say it that way. And that's where you start getting into some other situations that young children can see that they don't forget. And it can cause a lot of trauma. And I've talked to people where that situation has happened, and we've heard about, and not just for young children, also for adults too, especially when you're not expecting it. So I think that's one other component that we need to keep in mind, is that we're not just talking about the visual that you can see every day walking around looking at people. We're talking about areas that are covered up for a reason, and why those areas are not supposed to go into, why they are designated for certain spaces. And as a mother of, like I said, of a daughter, I want to make sure that children are protected, that just people in general are feeling safe and secure in the spaces that they're in, because unfortunately, and this is probably part of it too, there are bad actors out there that are using things that are in society, or different individuals that are in society, like in the trans community, and utilizing that title, that label, to be able to do things that they shouldn't be doing in these spaces. And so I will be supporting this legislation.
Mr. President,
Senator Taylor,
the debate against the bill.
you have the floor, Senator.
I don't think this is just about trans people. I think this bill is more a bill about discrimination. And I think it's a discrimination against some of our own fears and what we are afraid to look at when we look in the mirror. This is a social issue. This is an issue that I hear from friends of mine across the country and overseas who say, why is Idaho doing this? What is wrong with you people? That is what they're saying. These are
What
people
is
who are
wrong
straight,
with you
that are friends
people
of mine, they're
protecting
people who are
women
gay, that
in
are friends
private
of mine.
spaces?
I'm worried
Welcome
about
to Idaho
a
Signal,
man-
folks. That is Democrat Ron Taylor, District 26, out there, who will have a Republican challenger in the general election. So if you're in that district, wake up, folks. I don't know what this guy's. I don't know who he's talking to overseas, and who, you know, quite frankly, who cares what they say overseas? This is Idaho. This is America, and you are with us here at Idaho Signal. My name is Matt Edwards. It is March 27, 2026. We will keep an eye on that debate. We will get you a vote tally by the end, and that's probably one debate we'll probably upload the whole thing to, so you can watch it in its entirety. But there's a lot happening right now. A lot of moving parts going on. A lot of we still have these hefty bills coming through the Senate floor, and so forth. So we'll definitely be keeping tabs on that for you. But yesterday, as you know, we kind of highlighted some of the immigration bills that Senator Kelly Anthon and also as well as Majority Leader Lori Den Hartog, Senator, brought to the Senate State Affairs Committee yesterday. And we touched upon what they were. The bills weren't printed yet, so we don't know exactly what was inside the bills until later in the evening when they were finally made public. That's when everybody got into high gear and started reading through the bills to see exactly what they are. I'm going to say right up front right now, they're great bills. They're good bills. They aren't as powerful as the bills that have been stymied earlier during this session, the ones that we've been championing throughout the session, but they are good bills. And so someone else who's been keeping track on this more than the folks here at Idaho Signal is Michael Angeletta with Secure Idaho. And he joins us now with his analysis on these bills that were presented yesterday. Michael, it's great to have you here as we know we're winding down, and in the 11th hour, we've got some bills that are hopefully going to try something that we can get out of this session with some sort of win.
11th hour indeed, right? How many days do we have left in the session? 3.5?
Maybe, yeah.
It begs the question, some are asking, can we get a bill from a Senate committee print hearing all the way through committee hearing and then the Senate floor back to the House committee and the House floor? Some people tell me it's actually possible. So
we've seen miracles happen before.
Yes, indeed. And I agree with your characterization. Obviously we have not had a lot of time to do a deep dive into these bills. So we were jam-packing our homework last night and this morning. I do agree with your assessment. However, these bills in the Senate immigration package overall are positive. They do make some impact on the problem. I would characterize it as follows. It definitely addresses some of the issues on the back end. And we'll talk about what these bills do, like the cash remittances that go international out of this country from illegals. It doesn't necessarily address the root problem issue, which of course is the jobs magnet. It's the illegal jobs that are sitting here in Idaho. That's why we have the illegal population, because we have employers that are attracting them here to give them these black market jobs, essentially.
Yeah, we don't have a homeless encampments where they just hang out and suck on the services. They actually go to work when they come here. So we know that is the main, like you said, that is the magnet. That's the main driver of why they're here. And so yeah, I just want to make sure people understand that, because it's different out in places like California, perhaps, where it's a lot of big criminal activity, underground gangs and all that sort of jazz that is allowed to just go on there. Here, it's a systemic problem. It's within the system.
Agreed. And I think, we're still asking, obviously, for E-Verify to get its fair hearing, because at the end of the day, we need to address the root cause and the root problem. That said, I think we should go through what the immigration package was from the Senate and recognize some of the improvement and progress that we're seeing with this legislation. I was happy to see that there weren't irreparable watered down clauses in most of the legislation, right? That's always your biggest fear is, okay, well, why is this being introduced last minute? Why is this replacing good bills that were already introduced in the House and the Senate and then were stalled in committee, right? So of course your antenna go up. It's like, we got to pay close attention to this legislation. Let's take a hard look at it. Well, I'm happy to report back that for the most part, and I'm using paper today because this is all so last minute, there are no essential poison pills in this legislation. So do you want to go through what we've got?
Yeah, I want to. Can we start with the 287G one, because I think that's one that actually that actually had a vote in committee and it failed. And so I want to know: is this something that can get through the committee? Were certain things addressed, or is this just a rehash?
It's interesting because, some of the number one reasons for the Sheriff's Association to oppose the original 287G bill are essentially still in this bill. In fact, the Idaho Statesman just had an article come out today about how the Sheriff's Association is essentially still opposed to having to participate in 287G. So it doesn't look like, even with this new legislation, they're going to change their stance. I think our assessment for this 287G is it does some things better. And I wouldn't say necessarily some things worse, but there's a trade-off. So one interesting change with this new 287G bill, and there it is, S1441, is it now moves some authority into whether or not you participate as a law enforcement agency to publicly elected officials, in this case, Board of Commissioners. And what's interesting in this case, you can have a scenario where a county sheriff says, I don't want to participate, but the Board of Commissioners said, no, you're going to have to. So that's kind of a good thing in a way. So there's another way that we can still encourage and incentivize participation in the 287G program. There is some language, and I've talked to some legislators, and concern about a particular section, and I don't have the specific language in front of me. I normally would be better prepared, but it allows for a little bit more space and reason to justifiably opt out. So in other words, if your resources are strained or this is hindering potential other services in your agency, you shall not have to participate. And so one can interpret that as a slightly easier justification to get out of the program. And one other good thing I'll say about this bill is it's definitely more stringent. It spells out more clearly the reporting that has to be done to the public should a law enforcement agency opt out of the program. So that's a good thing with S1441. So overall, we support this. It still meaningfully moves the needle on an important issue, which is making sure we don't have any sanctuary style jurisdictions in Idaho. And this still helps get us closer there and puts public accountability still on those law enforcement agencies.
Yeah, that's great. This has been this 287G agreements has been a thing for at least I first made aware of it 2 years ago when it was discovered that certain counties weren't involved, or they were involved and they were being asked to be involved during all of that. So it's good to see that this is back in this way. And we'll see if it changed some minds. I know the pressure, obviously the pressure is on. And for Senator Anthon to bring this bill back, it's kind of a signal to the Senate, hey guys, we need to get this done because of the pressure that we're under. So yeah, all right, okay, great. So the next one here, let's throw this one up. How about 1440? This is the remittance tax. When it came out last night, I immediately went to X and I was like, okay, great. So rather than enforce illegal immigration workforce and go after the employers, let's just make everybody complicit in cheap labor and keep more of their money. I was being somewhat facetious, but at the same time, I thought, this is a good bill. I've seen it being done elsewhere, and we should definitely do it here. But at the same time, come on, folks, let's call. I like to call balls and strikes when I see them. But overall, I agree with you on this one. It is a step forward here.
Yeah, and I think it's also important. So let's talk about what it does, and then we'll talk how it compares to what other states have attempted to do or are currently doing.
Right.
So what it does is essentially for any international money transfer in cash. Let's be very clear. This is about cash transfers. So if you go to Western Union and you want to send money to Mexico, you're going to pay a $5 fee, and then for any amount above $500, you're going to also pay a 4%. Call it a tax, call it a fee. When you're filing for your taxes that subsequent year, you can ask for a refund if you're a legal citizen. Obviously, if you're not a legal citizen, you're not going to get that tax refund back. Does it really address, again, the root cause of illegal immigration here in Idaho? Probably not. But the argument here is, well, at least we're recouping some of those costs. And I think Den Hartog mentioned something like $3.7 million that could potentially go in the general fund based on the amount of transactions they see in cash. I'd say how it compares. This is kind of interesting, right? Again, we were doing all our homework last night. Florida and Missouri both tried to do outright bans. Arizona, Wendy Rogers, the firebrand, is also trying to do an outright ban. It's not looking good, however. I think in both Florida and Missouri, those outright bans lost. And then everybody predicts, even if Wendy Rogers' bill gets through both chambers in Arizona, that the governor will probably veto it. So one could argue that this bill at least has more likelihood of success. And when you look at other remittance statutes in other states, the only other one we could find was, I think, Oklahoma, and their fines were lower. It was like $5 and then 1% on $500. So at least this one increases the fee and the money that comes back to Idaho taxpayers by a little bit. So does it fundamentally affect the root cause problem? Absolutely not. Does it allow the state to recoup some costs? Yes.
And I imagine if it does get put in, that the ability to raise that percentage could get higher and higher as more of a deterrent. I know there were some people out there saying it should be 10% or 30% or 40%. I do have a question though, and this may go to the reason why this type of thing had failed in other states. Is basically what this does is it anybody who sends money overseas, even if you're a resident, a legal resident, anybody has to go through this fee. So this is actually a tax on everybody, and then it's refundable later when you file your taxes. This is sort of reminiscent of the tax on groceries in Idaho, where everybody pays groceries, but when you go to file your taxes, you get a refund back. Is this because you can't enforce it at the moment of sending the money back? Like you can't ask somebody for their ID to see if they're a legal citizen. I mean, because I hear that argument here. Why don't we just not charge Idahoans grocery tax when they go to the grocery store, and to show ID that you live in Idaho versus someone who lives in Washington or Texas and they're on vacation or something. I'm kind of thinking if they're taking a page out of that same book there.
My understanding is that's exactly right. There were constitutional concerns actually with basically having to show proof of citizenship at the time of doing a money transfer in a Western Union, and then putting the onus on a money transfer agency like Western Union is too jeopardizing to their best business. You're asking way too much of that business. So, for some of us purists, we'd like to have ultimately in a perfect world, yes, there would be a ban on international remittances for illegal citizens. But of course, then we have to think of the second and third order effects. Well, how are we going to find out they're illegal citizens? Is Western Union going to do that? Are they now going to be able to? So that is exactly why it failed. And otherwise, some staunch conservatives ended up voting against those bills in those two other states. So that is the challenge. I will say this, in this bill, one other good thing is there are some enforcement teeth. So they can audit Western Union as well to make sure that at least those taxes, the 4%, is being withdrawn and reserved for the state. So there are some enforcement teeth, which we always have to look for with these bills, right? If it's just, you must do this, and then there's no ramifications, well, it has no real power. So this at least has that enforcement.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, good. All right. And then what's, we got another graphic here that you guys shared. Senate Bill 1442, Immigration Accountability. What can you tell us about this one?
Yeah, the easiest way to describe this is it's basically Senator Lenny's S1318 and Dale Hawkins, Representative Dale Hawkins, H6660 combined in one omnibus bill. And if we all recall H660, which is actually, I think, sitting in Judiciary and Rules in the Senate, and our assumption at this point is it's not going to get a hearing, especially in light of this being introduced. It asks law enforcement at the time of booking in a jail to verify citizenship status. It's already baked into the process that they do today. They do the fingerprinting. It makes calls to the federal database. Results come back. Are they legal or not? And they just record it in their booking system. And then I think it's biannually, they report out what those numbers are. Low-hanging fruit. So that's the first part of the bill. And as you know, the police chiefs came out against that.
Right.
And then the second part is Lenny's S1318 included in this bill, which essentially is, it's good. It gives us more insight. This is part of that auditing bucket of bills we were talking about earlier, which gives us more insight into what the heck is going on in the refugee programs here in Idaho. What are the numbers? Where are they being resettled? Are they legal? Are they not? And the organizations that are facilitating that refugee resettlement have to report back, and they have to be subject to audits. So that's a good thing. We need visibility because that's going to allow us to obviously make better decisions in the future. And, this is kind of shocking, and maybe your audience already knows this, but last year, before Trump made a freeze on the refugee program, I think we had close to 1,000 refugees come into Idaho. And there were over 350 from the Republic of Congo and another 300 from Afghanistan. And, this is not to say that we shouldn't help people in need. That's not what the argument's about. The question is, how are we going to integrate and assimilate these people, right? This is a really common sense question. So at least if we provide more insight into these programs, we can make sure they're playing above board and not, there's been some potential talk of facilitating illegals through these resettlement programs because the standards are so low that we'll be able to at least prevent that behavior moving forward when the refugee program resumes. Right now it's frozen. Thanks to Trump, he froze it. But that program, mark my words, especially if we get a Democratic administration, that refugee spigot is going to be turned on times 10 for this state.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And then the final bill, which we don't have a graphic for, is Senate Bill 1443. You want to quickly walk us through this immigration detainer?
Yeah, we don't have a graphic for that yet because we're still doing the analysis. But
well, surface level.
Yeah, surface level. So it's good. It's good. And we're probably going to support it because at the end of the day, so if you've got a convicted criminal in jail and it turns out that they're not a legal citizen, law enforcement can hand that person over to ICE and help that deportation process move a lot faster. So Idahoans don't have to pay for keeping that person in jail, and we can get that person out of the country easier and faster. Common sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Okay, well, so now we know what the process is. They could schedule. I don't believe that these are assigned or these are on a committee's agenda today. We know the House has scheduled to come back on Monday and Wednesday of next week. So I would suspect that in between today and Wednesday, you'll see some movement in the Senate to get these bills through. What's your expectation? You got the leader of the Senate saying, "Hey, I presented these bills. I want them through."
I think it all hinges on the leadership in the House. There's been a lot of chatter. Is this enough time to get these bills through? And the answer is, if leadership in both chambers wants to get it through in that short time frame, they can. So we're going to find out next Monday. And has Anthon been working with Representative Moyle? If so, we'll probably see it move fast. If Moyle was not part of that conversation, we'll probably see it get stuck in the Senate.
Well, all I also know at the end of the day is they also control all the timing. So if they wanted to be here till the end of April, they certainly can. There's no reason not to. So don't let everybody think that there's a ticking time bomb here. I mean, we could cut the cord at any moment and extend the period. But hopefully we won't have to do that, because we want to get this thing done and move on with our lives. Everybody's got other better things to do with our lives than to try and deal with this common sense stuff. Michael, thank you so much. Again, where can people follow you and follow your tracker on all these bills here?
Yeah, and real quick, I just want to do a nod to the legislators that worked their butts off this session on illegal immigration. They are who got us to this point. If these bills ultimately succeed, it's because of them. It's Representative Dale Hawkins, it's Senator Brian Lenedy, it's Representative Kyle Harris, it's Representative Steve Tanner, and I'm probably missing somebody. But without their hard work for these past couple of months, we would not be here hoping that these bills have a chance to succeed. You can find us in Secure Idaho on X or Facebook, and we'll keep pumping out the analyses and being objective as we can. And we're still focused on the root cause of the problem, and that's hiring illegals. And you're going to keep seeing us talk about that as well. That issue is not over.
It's not over. No, it's certainly without those other bills going through. So, all right, Michael. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. Have a great weekend. We'll see. We'll be back. We're gonna have you back on next week to hopefully wrap this up too. We'll take care.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, great. All right, folks. That's good. Good news. It is. It's overall good news. We need these are bills that should be coming through, as well as the enforcement on the hiring side. So let's make sure that this happens. Let's get behind this and move forward. Okay. We have. I know we have Brian Allman in the wings here in a moment, but we were watching earlier before when we started the show here. That's Senator Ben Taves. Is he still closing?
So you'll notice that the debate against this legislation centered almost 100% on bathrooms and not on changing
all right, let's listen into this. Go ahead.
Shower rooms. And there's a reason for that. Because a lot of what we're working to protect and a lot of what really needs to be done is protecting specifically women in those areas. Sometimes it feels like we're not even talking about the same subject, because the majority of what or actually all of what we're trying to solve here is not targeting any one group of people or any one person. It's dealing with sexual predators and very real issues. I'm now getting stories daily in my email about women that have been attacked in these areas. These aren't made up stories. These are real stories of the women in our communities who are impacted by this. The current statute is inadequate to deal with these very real issues. This isn't criminalizing someone for who they are. That's just not true. That's not what the legislation says. There's no law currently in our books that prohibits a biological man from entering a showering room with undressed women and children present. This bill addresses that situation. The bill would also allow preventative measures even when no one is present to stop someone from placing cameras, which unfortunately is a growing issue in our society. This legislation is dealing with real issues that are separate from what you've heard on the debate against it. This legislation would allow the possibility to prevent some of these issues before the harm is done. I talked with my local sheriff because there were some questions from law enforcement, and he was in full support of this law, and he called it a great bill for crime prevention. And I would say that we want to prevent these crimes before the harm is done. And that's what this bill would do. I'd appreciate your support. Mr. President, debate is closed.
Debate is closed. The question before the Senate is, shall House Bill number 752 pass the Senate? The Senate Secretary will call the roll.
Adams, Anthem, Berndt, Bierke, Blaylock, Burtonshaw, Carlson, Cook, Den Hartog, Foreman, Galloway, Grove, Guthrie, Harris, Hart, Kaiser, Cole, Lakey, Lenny, Lent, Nichols, Okonowitz, Robbie, Ricks, Ruckty, Samaroff, Shippey, Taylor, Taves, Van Orden, Ward King.
Mr. President,
60 seconds, Senator Warding.
60 seconds, thank you. I've spent my entire career ensuring that all children were treated with kindness and with respect, and regardless of the intent, this bill flies in the face of that, and all I believe, and I am heartsick, the senator votes no.
Senator Ward King votes no.
Wintrow, Woodward, Cito, Seiderveld,
Well, there you have it, folks. Looks like a party line vote, as they say, with one registered Republican joining with the Democrats.
7 against.
28 in favor, 7 against for House Bill 752 passing the Senate. That will put this issue to rest, at least in our statute for now. And I'm just, Senator Ward King, someone who, I've been championing the safety of children. You are out of your mind. You are out of your minds. Democrats are out of their minds. I don't understand how you could be a Democrat in today's society. How do you walk down the street? How do you walk down the street with that mindset that it's perfectly reasonable to just deny all of the horrible, awful reports and instances of men knowingly going into women's restrooms to violate their private spaces? We have this same argument in public schools. We have this same argument. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I am heartbroken that someone like that, who claims this higher moral authority, that says we need to allow this. It's absolutely out of control. They are controlled by emotions. I for this one, I don't think so. They're controlled by they're warped. They have a mind virus. I think they're sick. The emotions tell you to protect women. They're controlled by a mind virus. What was in that COVID shot? What was in it? What is this mRNA? Mind warping virus. Jeez Louise, man. Brian Allman is at the Capitol today. He was in the Senate, in the gallery there, watching this thing go down. Brian, it's good to see you, my friend. Did you catch Ward King's 60 seconds to explain her vote, her heartbroken vote? What is it with these people?
I did, and I caught all the debate on both sides, and it was somewhat enlightening, I'd say. Where to start? Obviously, Senator Ward King, but also Senator Wintrow said something interesting. She said that she looked back and counted how many bills dealt with gay and trans people, and that they really exploded after 2020. And she characterized that as the Republicans in the legislature targeting these communities. I would characterize it differently. I would say that that's when Republicans in the legislature woke up to the fact that there was an assault on our culture, on our norms, on decency, on privacy, on safety, pushing this agenda in schools and in public bathrooms. And people finally woke up and realized that, as distasteful as it is, we need legislation to protect people. And I think Senator Taves said it well. That's what this is about.
I'm with you, Brian. I'm with you, and I think this all stems from the people putting the things together, right? Like, we had the pandemic, parents were watching what was being taught in schools, right? You had kids online, and you had this explosion of this transgender movement. I've seen cross dressers my whole life. I've seen men dress as women my entire life at the grocery store, but what I don't see, what we rarely ever saw, was this bold, like in your face, warped mentality, this angry warped mentality. It all goes back to that viral video of that trans cross-dresser person in some sort of hobby shop, and going, it's ma'am. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Like, it all goes back to that person, or the one that put a neck hold on Ben Shapiro, young Ben Shapiro back in the day. I forget that person's name, but it was like you could sense even then that these men that dressed as women were absolutely deranged, right? They're absolutely deranged. And when we got to the point where we were now defending their actions by going into restrooms, it almost just, this guy. I mean, that's who they're defending, and this is who we're trying to prevent from being allowed. Just saying, yes, it's okay for you to go into the restroom of women, or to go into the locker room at the YWCA. Like, I don't understand it, Brian. I thank God every single Republican except for Guthrie, and we're going to talk about him in a second, voted for this bill to bring some sanity to this issue. Yeah, there he is debating against this bill. What's going on in this guy's brain?
After listening to Senator Guthrie here, and whether it's this issue or immigration or the budget or spending, he seems to think his constituency is here. The Capitol is in District 19, which is one of the most liberal districts. This is the one represented by Senator Melissa Wintrow and Representative Monica Church. He seems to think that these are his voters, that when he talks to the reporters at the Statesman, and the editorial board at the Statesman writes these glowing op-eds about him, he seems to think that that's his constituency, not the citizens, the salt of the earth conservative citizens out there in District 28. I think he's very confused, and he started to play to the wrong crowd. And I hope his voters hold him accountable. I hope they understand what their senator is doing on their behalf.
Yeah, they really need to know. Unless there's something going on in Senator Guthrie's private life that we don't know about, on why he keeps falling on this side of the issue and joining the Democrats on this side of the issue. It's absolutely appalling. Absolutely appalling. I mean, this should be a death nail for his reelection. He's
had about 5 death nails for his reelection this year alone.
And who knows if he'll make it out. I just, but you're right. But the good folks in District 28 need to understand who this guy is. It's absolutely incredible. Okay, well, that aside, 752 has passed the House. It's on its way to the governor's desk. I assume the governor's going to sign it. He signed all the other bills. He may not have a big fanfare about it, but I assume this is going to be signed, unless he gets some sort of pressure from the outside. But I doubt.
Say what you will about Governor Little, he's always been on this side when it comes to the issue of men invading women's spaces. Signed the Protecting Women's Sports Act way back in 2020. Signed the original bathroom bill for public schools. So I expect him to sign this one too.
Absolutely, I fully agree, and I don't expect any different. Okay, what are you guys showing us there? Are we going to the business committee? Is that yeah, that's the business committee shot there. So so Brian, we wanted to let everybody know there is still an E-Verify bill. We just had Michael Angeletta on, and we're talking about these immigration bills. There is still an E-Verify bill in the works, and it's on the House side. And we all know that things, when a bill crosses over and it goes to the other side, it goes to the other chamber, it's now in the hands of that chamber. And if their bill that they sent over is getting stymied, they may want to say, well, maybe we can add a little bit more teeth to the bill that we have on our side. So that bill is having a hearing today in House Business, the Business Committee. I'm not sure if that's the bill that they're on. Oh no, I'm being told it's not on yet.
No, it's lower on the agenda.
It's
There's
lower
a
on
couple
the
of other
agenda.
things they're doing too.
Okay, so we will keep tabs on that. And so once we see, I believe it's Representative Wheeler will be presenting that bill. So once we see that bill on the House side pop up, we're going to jump over there to that committee and check in with that, because that might be there might be some signals we can gain from that. On the topic of immigration, Brian, what did you think of the bills that came out yesterday? We've had a chance to read them now. What are your thoughts?
Well, I haven't had a chance to read them yet, and I was in the gallery, so I missed your talk with Mr. Angeletta. But I mean, I expect there to be a mix of good and bad. There's going to be some things that, yeah, we want this, but it's also, as I'm sure you've said, not necessarily a substitute for the real meat of immigration enforcement, which was the E-Verify bill and holding employers accountable. Because you look at it holistically, and we want the whole point, if you are like-minded, I suppose, is to decrease illegal immigration to Idaho. That will take a burden off of our housing, off of our healthcare system. It'll open up jobs that have been now sequestered away from American citizens. So how do you do that? Well, there's numerous things you can do. And I think the number one thing is to turn off it's like if there's a bunch of moths coming to your door, well, you turn off the light and they'll stop coming. You make it so that illegal aliens cannot get employment. They're not going to come here, because that's the whole point. They're coming here to make money and often to send the money back home, which obviously the remittances bill will target. Whether or not it's enough or not, that's a different conversation. And then, of course, having police and sheriffs cracking down harder. We've all heard stories of people who are here illegally and driving illegally, and they get into a wreck, they wreck your car, and of course they don't have insurance, they don't even have proper identification. If it's a hit and run, it's almost impossible to track them down. Even if they do get booked, then they get out and they just blend back in, because who knows if they're, they go in with one set of documents saying this is my name and my address, they get released on bail or whatever, and then they go out and they get a new set of documents and they disappear again. And that's, the whole problem. So, having our law enforcement crack down on that and keep better records and communicate better with ICE, have a good memorandums of understanding with ICE is also important.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, let's do this. Are you good to stick around through a break here? We're also trying to have we also have another guest. Hopefully that they're lined up, but we'll have to check in on the progress on that and make sure that that's all in order. We got a lot to get through today. But Brian, if you're cool to stay through one break here, we'll take a break and we'll come back.
All right.
Sounds good. We'll be right back.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
The dictionary defines a pledge as something that you give as a sign that you'll keep a promise. As Idahoans, that's what we're looking for in our elected leaders. A sign that they'll keep their word. Talk is cheap, and so are political promises, hidden agendas, and special interests. This is why we created the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge, affirming the values Idahoans have been living by for over 100 years, inspired by the only two documents everyone has agreed to live by. So when an Idaho legislator signs our pledge, inviting voters to publicly hold them accountable, that's what we call political integrity. The pledge restores trust and honesty between voters and their legislators. It means protecting our shared values and ensuring your voice is heard in Boise. And that is priceless. Thank your legislator for having the political courage to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge. And if they haven't, it's time to ask why.
Okay, folks, we are back. We are live inside the House Business Committee, and it looks like they are about to present this E-Verify bill. So let's turn up the volume, guys, and listen in.
If we need a theme for the committee, I guess we can hold this one too, if that's what we're going to do. But let me present. Senate Bill 1247 is simple legislation that takes us on an incremental step along the E-Verify path, which has been part of our conversation this year, obviously. It will require that state and local governments and all private employers with over 150 employees who contract with the state in excess of 100,000 will use E-Verify. They must use it. And so that it would come into play January 1st of 2027. Obviously, the intent here is that we then have a uniform employment verification standard across all Idaho agencies and major government contractors. So that's, dealing with Idaho taxpayer dollars. Obviously, part of the conversation around E-Verify is that this could leverage that existing E-Verify, that federal infrastructure, rather than trying to create a new state bureaucracy for these kind of confirmations. It will also continue to defer immigration status determinations to the federal authorities so that we don't have the state overreach into that federal jurisdiction, which we all know immigration is a federal issue. So Senate Bill 1247 is really a tool to ensure that we have a legal workforce hired if taxpayer dollars are involved. And just some of the penalties it talks about: if E-Verify uncovers that an employee does not have legal status, the employer must terminate their employment. And if they continue to hire unlawful employees, then there's some compliance incentives that are enacted. And if it continues, penalties could also include loss of the state contract. So that means that business both in Idaho and out of state would be required to use E-Verify in these conditions. Again, where it's contracting over 100,000 and where they're a employer with more than 150,000 employees. Okay. Just briefly to address the fiscal note, we've talked with the agencies that would handle this within the state. They believe they can handle contract revisions as part of their normal legal operations. And then the Department of Labor also feels that they can handle any complaints that may arise out of this under their current budgets. I will stand now for questions, Mr. Chairman, and would ask that the bill be sent to the floor with a do pass recommendation, but I'll hear the will of the committee.
Representative Harris. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we send Senate Bill 1247 to general orders.
We do have a motion properly before this committee. Is there any questions or further discussion? Representative Crane, 13.
Yeah, I've got some questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Wheeler. I applaud what you're doing. It makes sense to me, and I can see the nexus between if these are tax dollars that are being spent and we have a problem with illegal immigration, then we don't want tax dollars being spent on companies that are employing illegals. So that makes sense to me. Here's where I'm hung up a little bit. Why would we limit it to companies that only employ 150 people or more? That doesn't, I'm trying to understand why that threshold. A lot of times federal legislation will draw it at 50 employees. So small businesses are not subject to it, but they consider if you have 51 employees or more not to be in that category. So I'm curious at why you picked the 150.
Representative Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Crane. The intent was to, again, sort of incrementally move into this. And we recognize that employers that have that number of employees are the most likely to have existing HR departments with the capacity to handle some of the administrative burdens that the E-Verify system may impose on them. And so that is really where that number came from. And maybe, Mr. Chairman, if I may, Representative Crane, could you address, is that something that you would want to see change in general orders if that's really where we're going?
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And no, just curious how you came up at the 50. And I'm fine if it goes to general orders to do that. Because I can see drawing that line where the feds draw that line. That makes sense to me. If you're saying, hey, I'm not going to capture the guy that's got 2 or 3 employees or 20 employees, but you could even convince me if you're going to just bid on state projects, period. That's one of the conditions for bidding on a state project is you've got to be enrolled in the E-Verify system. So I was just curious why you picked the 150.
Representative Wheeler?
Yeah, again, I think, to answer that question, and again, I think the other reason we decided that contracting limit of 100,000, right, is that we don't end up imposing the system, which in some ways is a little unproven still, on our small employees, or excuse me, our smaller employers who are doing smaller subcontracts for the state. But I could certainly see in a follow-up bill in a future session pursuing that as we begin to see the data that it's workable.
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Wheeler, would you be amenable to then 150 in 2027? Maybe give it 2 years and then it goes down to 100, like a graduating stair step in, so businesses have some predictability that they know that this is coming, especially the smaller businesses, and then they can choose whether they want to engage in the public works process or not. I mean, I could be convinced it could happen every 2 years or it could happen every year, whatever. But I'm fine with a phased-in approach and finally getting all businesses, because I think there is a valid point. These are people's taxpayer dollars, and they don't want them spent on companies that are hiring your illegal workforce. So I applaud where you're going.
Representative Wheeler.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Representative Crane, again, appreciate the conversation, appreciate the feedback. What I would say is, given where we're at in the session, and given my not quite black cat level superstition about our general orders, right? I would rather just get this passed how it is and then have that conversation in the interim. But I'm not like madly opposed to the idea of a tiered approach, because I think that is sensible, provides some predictability, like you mentioned, Representative Crane 13. But that would be my sort of reaction to that question.
Representative Cheatham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like the way this thing is written with the 150 starting point. I think as we move forward and we begin to see the effect of federal perhaps changes in immigration law and the H-1 visa program, the beginning here, and then looking at the data and looking at the effects of all that may come down the road that there's no way to forecast, I think starting at 150 is a good place. And then we can adjust as we see the need, whether it's dropping lower numbers or changing categories of affected businesses. So with that in mind, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move a substitute motion that we move this bill, Senate 1247, to the floor with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you, Representative. We do have a substitute motion. Representative Birch.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for an alternate substitute motion.
Motion's in order.
Thank you. And I'd like to move that we hold this bill in committee, and I'd like to speak to that motion.
You may.
And it's not any disrespect. In fact, it's out of respect for the dialogue we've just had. Those are very good questions, the kind of questions you'd want to sit around and hash out when you write a bill. And that's just one aspect of this bill. I've got a long list of questions too, and not that and workability and all sorts of other, what assumptions are being made that may not hold true, or what are some unintended consequences, and really explore this. And it's no disrespect for Representative Cheatham either. I just think that general orders is not the right place to try to edit, to really come up with a thorough, modification to legislation. And I think I would much rather see a much more thorough conversation take place over the interim, have all the agencies that, will be responsible for this, make sure the business community stakeholders have had a chance to fully weigh in on this. And then let's come back next session with a bill that everyone can, understand and have been fully thought out. So I'm not rejecting the idea at all. In fact, E-Verify is one of the things that I talk about with my constituents, but I want to make sure we do it right and not rush it and then hope for the best and then come back. So I don't see anything wrong at this point in time, this late in the station, being a little more prudent in how we move forward on this.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Wheeler, would you like to comment on that at all? Or?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Birch, I'm a sucker for a themed committee. So, for that reason, I'd be happy to see it held just so that we had a three-peat. Bring a bill, you want to see it go, right? So I'm not going to oppose that amended substitute motion, but I'll be less excited about it than others. How's that, Mr.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Cheatham. Representative Crane 13.
I understand, but I'm going to debate against the amended substitute motion. I'm looking at the enforcement date. It's January 1st, 2027. It's not a July 1st, 2026. So it's an additional 6 months that you have going there. I do know, local contract, large contract, ESI met with me. They're already doing this and say it works absolutely fantastic. And they would be in full support of public works, folks that are doing that. So I'm still probably going to support the general orders because I really feel like the phased in approach is where this needs to go. So I understand your point, Representative Birch, but given an additional 6 months and large contractors are doing that, I think we're probably okay.
Representative Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for a roll call vote.
Representative Crane 12.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question for Representative Wheeler. So I'm reading through on line 22, page 1, and it looks like you have the more than 150 employees during more than 26 consecutive weeks over the immediate 24-month period. Is there a reason that's worded specifically in that way as opposed to just, hey, these are, continuously 150 employees year round, year over year? Is it seasonal? Is that where you're kind of going after?
Representative Wheeler.
Mr. Chairman and Representative Crane 12, I want to defend my chairman that your light's hard to see sometimes. The intent there was really to make sure that you couldn't game the system and cut down to 149 employees so that you're under it or whatever. That's really the intent there.
Thank you. I wondered if that's where your intention was going. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yep.
Representative Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for a brief comment that in Representative Crane's debate against my alternative substitute motion, that what concerns me is when we say we're probably okay. I'd like to have time to know that it's not just probably okay. And so I would just ask that we, and if we come back, let's put it this way, if we come back next year, I'm not sure I see much of a difference between an implementation date of January 2027 and June 2027, or after, so it's really, it just buys you that much more time to think everything through. Anyway.
Representative Green.
Thank you, Chairman, and good representative. I just want to, there's a lot of conversations and I want to clarify, are the changes that are being proposed, would you consider those welcome changes or hostile changes to your efforts?
Representative Wheeler.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Green, I would describe them as untimely amendments. Again, I would prefer to have the bill go as it has passed through the Senate, as it's been clean and got here to us. I think it would solve one of the major questions that we've wrestled with as a body this session. Yeah, so that's all. That's how I will address those proposed amendments.
Thank you, Chairman, for a substitute motion.
So we already are maxed out on motions.
We're maxed out.
We have 3. I thought we only had 2.
Representative Crane 12.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Wheeler. Since we're on general orders conversation here, are you amenable to a discussion on the rulemaking authority at the very end of the bill?
Representative Wheeler.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Crane 12, would you be willing to give me a little added clarity on what you mean? What might the amendments be for the rulemaking authority change?
Representative Crane 12.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Wheeler, to strike that they can promulgate rules.
Representative Wheeler.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Crane 12, I think given our current rulemaking situation, I would not want to do that at present. I know we are trying to get to a point where the rulemaking process is a little bit more to our liking. I share that effort, but I think at this point, no, I don't think we want to do that at this point.
Representative Veely.
Mr. Chairman, and I don't know if this goes to Representative Wheeler or not, but what are the amendments that we're talking about?
Representative Wheeler.
Mr. Chairman, I have heard of a tiered employee approach over 2 years. I've heard of a potential striking of rulemaking authority. I don't know beyond that, and I would welcome hearing from the committee if there are other untimely amendments.
Follow up.
Mr. Chairman, no, I would be just as curious as you.
Representative Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to say that after listening to thank Representative Crane 13, Representative Crane 12, and Representative Veely, because the more questions you keep on asking, the more you're making my point.
Thank you, Representative. Committee, any further discussion? All right, we will take the motions. First, we're going to take up the what is it? The amended substitute motion, which was to hold in committee. We did get a roll call vote, so the secretary will call the roll.
Chairman Redmond,
No.
Vice Chairman Wheeler,
Yes.
Representative Crane 13, Representative Palmer, Representative Barbieri, Representative Cornelis, Representative Crane 12, Representative Ehlers, Representative Monks, Representative Cannon,
No.
Representative Harris, Representative Marmon,
No.
Representative Razor, Representative Thompson, Representative Cheatham, Representative Veely, Representative Birch, Representative Green,
Roll shows 4 in favor, 14 against. Motion fails. Next, we'll take out the substitute motion, which was to send to the floor with a do pass recommendation.
Chairman Redmond,
No.
Vice Chairman Wheeler,
Yes.
Representative Crane 13, Representative Palmer, Representative Barbieri, Representative Cornelis, Representative Crane 12, Representative Ehlers, Representative Monks, Representative Cannon,
No.
Representative Harris, Representative Marmon, Representative Razor, Representative Thompson, Representative Cheatham, Representative Veely, Representative Birch, Representative Green,
The roll shows 4 in favor, 14 against. That motion also fails. Now we'll take up the original motion, which was to send to general orders.
Chairman Redmond,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Wheeler,
No.
Representative Crane 13, Representative Palmer, Representative Barbieri, Representative Cornelis, Representative Crane 12, Representative Ehlers, Representative Monks, Representative Cannon,
Yes.
Representative Harris, Representative Marmon, Representative Razor,
Yes.
Representative Thompson, Representative Cheatham, Representative Veely, Representative Birch, Representative Green,
Roll shows 13 in favor, 5 against. Motion does pass, and Senate Bill 1247 will be sent to general orders. With that, committee, we have to be back up on the floor. We are going to move to call of the chair, and we're adjourned.
Okay, folks. Well, there you have it. The Senate's version, this limited E-Verify bill, has been sent to general orders on a 13-5 vote. 13-5. The 5 no's were Representative Cheatham, Representative Veely, the 2 Democrats, Birch and Green, and then there was one more vote. Oh, Representative Wheeler. So yeah, there's the graphic there that was sent over to us by Brian Allman, who was in the room there watching the debate happen on this. Pretty fascinating, folks. So this bill is getting sent to general orders for some amendments to the bill. And it looked as though, based on some of the discussion there, that they wanted to expand the number of employees, reduce the number of employees, expand the number of employers, and of course, anything can happen in general orders, including just making it look exactly like the bill that the House passed earlier this session. So anything can happen, and it looks like that's what's going to happen later today. That now the bill goes to general orders with all the rules and everything that they can make up. They could take up the bill today if they go into the general orders session today, or they could take it up on Monday. So we will keep tabs on that, of course. We are in bonus time at the moment. But that is a good thing because we have a special guest with us in this bonus time. Senator Glenita Zeiderveld joins us. She is in her office at the Capitol. Senator Zeiderveld, thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's been a roller coaster and a very hard time for you and your family at this critical hour in the session, dealing with having to deal with not only just the madness of being in session in general, but to have everything happen that transpired last weekend. I want to bring our viewers up to speed on this, even though we've been talking about it all week. Can you kind of share with us how you're doing and what has been the fallout since your letter that you shared with the audiences out there last weekend?
Well, thank you, Matt, for having me on. And I know we've been trying to catch up with each other. It's been a crazy session, and with my committees, I'm very busy being on the Joint Finance Appropriation Committee and Health and Welfare. There's just a lot going on, so I'm glad to finally catch up. And thank you for your support and prayers and encouragement during this time. It was kind of we were blindsided. We were a little bit surprised, but not surprised. We just figured that it'd probably take a little while before it finally caught up with us because we are in that industry. And our views are not quite the same on that matter. And so when I got home Friday, I mean, I literally just pulled in my garage. Then my husband pulled up and it just had this look on his face and then kind of went like this. And when he hung up, I'm like, what's going on? And then he had shared the news that basically they had we're independent sales reps, basically. And the customers didn't know, they didn't want to do business with us anymore because of my politics. It wasn't because he did a poor job. It wasn't because the product was bad or anything like that. It was literally about my politics. And basically there was also a threat that there could be more coming. And so that was kind of a setback, and it will be a huge hit for us. It just goes to show you how when you send us here, that if it's hard to stay the course when you start getting pressures like this. And to me, send out the nasty mailers, send out the TV commercials, do whatever. But when you start actually coming after your livelihood, it's just kind of a different story.
It is quite a different story, and I'm glad you separated the two because there's politics and differences of opinions and differences of ways to govern and so forth. But this here, I correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe you're already looking into this. I hope you are. When you're intimidating politicians, isn't there something in there that says you can't really do something like that, or is this, or is because of the scenario like you're an independent sales rep with one company that's then that company is dealing with the people who or with the companies that are upset with you? Is it that far removed? I mean, what are, and if you can't divulge things because you are talking with lawyers, that's fine, but there has to be something in here where it says when you go after a politician like this because you don't like their views, it sounds like intimidation, it sounds like blackmail, it sounds like, I mean, what if they were to threaten you before, ending their business with you? I mean, it just doesn't seem right.
It doesn't. And we have reached out and we're getting some counsel on what we need to do. And it is, we are a right to work state. So they could have just said, we no longer want to do business with you. And we would have just that would just been the end of it. But to actually put it in a letter, the exact reasons why he was removed, and it had nothing to do with his performance, like I said, or the product. It had all to do with my politics. And then again, like I said, and then adding in that little extra note of saying, there's possibly more coming as well. And so that's kind of what we're looking into to see what we can do. And where my husband and I are at, we won't back down. This is, that's what they're wanting us to do. And I think that people are watching and they want to make sure that that their senator is going to go here and not be intimidated or bullied into voting opposite of what actually I ran on and what they hired me for this position for. You know, they go out there and they vote, and I interview with 55,000 people. Well, I don't do that many, but that's how many's in my district. But they send me here on what I told them that I would do. And so if I was to back down just because they're coming after our livelihood, it would go completely against my principles, my integrity, my sacred honor. And so
Yeah. So you bring up two things. One is the chilling effect that this could have on other people who are considering a life, a life in politics, even a part-time life in politics with the part-time legislature. And so it begs the question, and I've already heard stories over the years of people who they're not quite sure if their livelihoods could take a hit because of their political stances, even if they didn't run for office. If they just, posted their stance on Facebook or something, that could have a dramatic hit. So people do take that into account a lot of times, and it has a chilling effect on speech. But number two, you have 104 of your other colleagues in there having to make the same decisions you have to make at times on these bills. And it begs the question, how many of these types of letters have been sent out to others who are taking a different side? We don't know. And I think that is also a detriment to the voter, because are their voices being heard, or are they being, or is their representative being intimidated too?
And it is. So when we come here, I was just looking at my little, they call it advisors, not lobbyists, but there's over 250 individuals that come here representing over 500 companies. And it could be local or nationwide or global wide, whatever it is. And so there's a lot of pressure that you get from, because they're paid to get their legislation passed. That's their job. And so when you're trying to push back against that because you're trying to be about the Idaho citizens and about what our state and what's important there, you get a lot of pressures. And that's when a lot of them, mostly will just say, you won't get reelected, or they'll spend a lot of money against your campaign. That's all part of it. That's stay in that lane. And we kind of expect that,
It's a fun lane. It's a fun lane. I'm in that lane too.
Yeah.
for liberty. It's a fun lane to be in. But your point's taken. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's kind of, the pressures that we get here. But like I said, it's different when it starts coming over to where it could leave us homeless. That's how big of a hit we're going to take. Right now thankfully we just basically have a home payment, and just we're not in a whole lot of debt, do have some savings, but but it's a lot of people don't have that. But the support that everybody has been reaching out to me has been overwhelming, because illegal immigration is like one of the number one issues in our state. That's one of the biggest concerns to Idaho citizens. And even though it's a federal issue on a lot of levels, there's a lot of things that we can do within our state. And a lot of people said, well, have you reached out to them and tried to work with them? Well, we have. I've known them for a very, very long time. And some of the things I brought up to, I don't know if we could do it statewide or how we could fix it, but I says, why are we not bringing back the sponsorship program that my in-laws came over to America? When they came here, they had to have a sponsor who was sponsoring them for 2 years to have a job, make sure they got their citizenship, made sure that they assimilated to the culture of America, and they were responsible for them for 2 years. So I had brought that up. And they're not really interested in that, because then it's also makes, if they break commit a crime, then because they're the sponsor, they're also responsible for that.
Yeah.
So they weren't really good with that. They even said that they would be willing to, if we gave them amnesty, and they would pay a fine. We're okay. This is it, because you're breaking the law. So if you're allowing them to come and work here illegally, and I said, well, we're willing to pay a fine for all of them as long as we give them amnesty. And I says, but you're also shooting yourself in the foot, because these people, yeah, there's some that are criminals, but then there's some that they're very family oriented and they want a better life. I said, so the moment you give them amnesty, I said, they're either going to quit or they're going to go on strike. And you can't milk 10,000 cows by yourself. It'll be the shortest strike in history.
Yeah.
You know?
if they keep hearing they're doing jobs Americans don't want to do, and then you make them Americans, guess what job they don't want to do anymore?
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah.
Exactly.
Well. Okay. So then just to get your take on this, since it just happened yesterday, Senator Kelly Anthon and then Hartog introduced 4 new bills because of the outcry and the pressure that y'all have been under, because in the Senate these bills have been stuck in Guthrie. A lot of them have been stuck in Guthrie's committee, and nothing seems to have been done. Here in the 11th hour, we get these new bills. Judging by their analysis, we had Michael Angeletta on just earlier. Judging by those, these are good bills. They're necessary bills for us to have. They're not necessarily the ones that we've been dying for, but they seem to be good bills, and so hopefully they'll still get through the line. And then just before we came to you, we watched the House Business Committee take the that limited E-Verify bill that got through the Senate a couple of weeks ago. They're sending that to general orders to do who knows what with. So this battle that you guys are going on, and you only really have a half a week left here, it seems like, it's really going to ramp up. Are you ready for this? I mean, I like I said, we're praying for you, and there's folks out there that are doing a lot of that. You're holding up all right, and you're ready for this?
You know what? By the grace of God, I've been at peace, overwhelming, peace, even though everything's a mess. But I have to say, why are we waiting to the last hour to bring these immigration bills? They should have been brought at the beginning. We always do this where we push it to the last hour. There's a lot of chaos, confusion, fast tracking. I haven't even read them yet. I don't even know what they're about. And I do know, if you look at the Idaho Dairymen's Association, who they're contributing to, who are they're giving to their campaigns, and one of them is Senator Anthon, he's not going to upset that apple cart. Is he going to want to be on that list where they come after his livelihood? I doubt it. And so I don't think that these are going to be real strong bills. I think it's just trying to show that they're trying to do something. They're not going to do something. One of the largest dairies in Idaho is actually in his district, which is one of our customers. And, and then the dairymen don't like E-Verify. So
Right.
I don't really, it'll be interesting what comes out of that. I don't think there's going to be, I think it's going to be all smoke and mirrors, nothing that really will do anything but just say, hey, look at me, we tried. And, because here at the last hour, I haven't heard, but I think the House is going to be recessing until next Wednesday. So they're not even going to be here Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, they did mention earlier today that they will be back on Monday. So
they will. Okay.
Yeah. So like you said, everything's chaotic right now, so that could change again. So who knows? We're just keeping tabs on it. But
and we still have all these bills, and they're still introducing bills, and we're trying to get out of here. And and again, all these really heavy bills that we're doing in the last hour when we're tired, when there's just a lot going on. But that's kind of my experience the last 4 years, counting this year. This is how they always operate. We are slow going, nothing's really going on. And then the last couple of weeks, we're just hitting double sessions, a lot of committee meetings, last minute bills that you don't have time to really properly read.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of the politics here.
Yeah, it reminds me of the phrase, this isn't a bug of the system, this is a feature. This is like by design. Okay, well, Senator Zeiderveld, where can people follow you? Where can people follow your work and continue to support you?
Okay, so glenita@glenita.com is my website. And then my email is glenita@glenita. Well, that's my email. So
That's your email, yeah.
So my website is just glenita.com. It's,
Perfect.
having that unique name.
That works out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Well, we wish you the best of luck. We're praying for you, and we hope you get some good rest and you can read up on everything and have there's your website up there. Yep. And please keep in touch and let me know what's going on so we can rally the people when we need to.
I will definitely do that. And I appreciate your support. And, I don't really have anything else to lose. So I'm just gonna just let everybody know the truth of everything. I mean, the only thing they can take from me now is my life. So hopefully it doesn't come to that. So.
No, it won't. It won't.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my best to you and Tom. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Oh man, boy. I tell you folks, that is a strong woman there, a strong-willed woman who can't back down. So we applaud her, and it's just awful. It's just awful that these industries and these folks can bully people that way. And I'm serious. I wonder, there's two ramifications from this. When you do this, other people see that and they say, maybe I shouldn't run. Or you wonder how many of the other people in those positions have had that happen to them prior and are voting a certain way because of that pressure and are saying, you know what, I know what the right thing to do is, but I have to do it this way. That's no way to run a republic, folks. That's no way to run a republic. And it's very, very, I think the authorities need to look in. I think, look, they're always running bills talking about how, campaign finance bills and lobbying and transparency and we run a 501c4. I also run a PAC. I'm on every day talking to you, telling you what we're doing, who we're holding accountable, right? And all these other companies and all these other PACs and all these other places and all these, are they this transparent, folks? I mean, it's just an observation. I'm not sitting here trying to say I'm tooting my own horn, but it's just an observation. I can't believe, it's sickening. It's absolutely sickening. And the good folks out there, you are good people. Idaho is filled with good people. Good people, and they run for office. And they run for office and they take on these risks. It's absolutely incredible. So, what a busy day. When I told you it was a busy Friday, folks, this is a busy, busy Friday. And we went way past our time because today is the last episode of our daily show. I'm actually traveling to Boise next week. And as we had mentioned earlier, it wasn't quite sure if the House was going to be in session or not on Monday, but it looks like they are. Who knows what the Senate is going to be doing? It's back and forth. And we are ramping things up all across the state in terms of calls to action and getting people motivated. So I'm going to be in the Treasure Valley next week. And so we might come on the air. We might do some special programming that week. But in terms of just our regular, me coming to you live from the set here, the American Smoke Company studios, today's it. This is it. So I thank you so much for joining us. There is more to come. We have some great news ahead for you about this program, about what we're going to do for the rest of the year. I will say this right here and now. We will have a primary election night show. We will be here to deliver to you live results as much as we can on primary election, and we'll do that. So we have that in. Oh, does Brian want to say a quick goodbye? Hey, Brian Altman. Looks like he's leaving the Capitol. I was just saying goodbye to the folks out here who have been following us all session long, as we are now in our final episode of this session.
Yeah, well, it's the final moments of the session. It looks like they're probably going to come back next week for a couple of days and wrap some stuff up. There's still some loose threads, but I'm sure we'll find a way to let people know the outcome of all those things.
Absolutely, and Gem State Chronicle is one of those spots at brianallman.com, and so you're kind of breaking up there a little bit. So I don't want to make sure people got your message. But where are you headed now to, Brian?
Well, I'm going to hang out for a few more minutes. The House is coming back, and we'll see what they do. It might just be some procedural stuff before the weekend, but you never know. There's always surprises here at the end of the end of the session. So yeah, I'll keep everyone updated there and on X as well. It's been a great time, and looking forward to the campaigns and the convention and the general election, the midterms, and then we'll be back here again next January.
That's right. That's right. You got it, sir. All right, Brian, good to see you. I'll be sure to we'll be sure to get together when I head down there to Boise next week. Great. All right. Once again, I almost thought we were going to hit 10,000 subscribers by Friday, but we didn't over on YouTube. We're just crossed the 9,600 mark at the old YouTube channel. But what a remarkable, you guys are fantastic. Unbelievable numbers in growth on that channel. And it just goes to show when you get the word out and we're being as effective as we can, that we're making change happen at the Capitol by keeping tabs on everybody and sharing the content. So please keep subscribing over there on YouTube and send us a message. If you want to donate, if you want to be a part of this movement together with your dollars, IdahoSignal.com. Very simple. IdahoSignal.com. If you go there, you can send us a donation to keep the show going. If we were able to, I don't know, triple our budget, we could be on all year long. Just a hint out there. But as of right now, we are a session only. We're a session only program. So, but there's a website. Yeah, donate at IdahoSignal.com. All right, folks. Thanks again. Matt Edwards here. I hope to see you in person. Please come up to me and talk to me about the show and things that we can improve upon. And we will see you next time on some random time, but definitely on election night. Well, take care.
Lord, is it too late?
This bill, I think, it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.